whatever orchestral organization that comes back in the future, it will not be known as the Syracuse Symphony Orchestra. It will have to be something totally different.
It'll be called something else?
It would have to be, yeah.
Wow.
The name is disappearing as they file for bankruptcy.
And new personnel, maybe new directors, music directors?
Everything would be new, is my understanding. By filing for Chapter 7, they're able to help protect the pension benefits that are part of the debt that they have, because I guess it's the Federal Pension Benefit Trust, or whatever it's called, when they file for Chapter 7, can take over that obligation. They've done one thing by protecting the musicians' future interests in that pension.
Would they come back potentially with all new musicians? And, like, for example, Daniel Hagee probably wouldn't be back?
Obviously I can't speak to Daniel's future or any musician's future at this point, but my understanding is it would be a whole new thing, starting from a new collective bargaining agreement with the American Federation of Musicians, and presumably an entirely new board, entirely new staff, and what musicians would be involved would be dependent on presumably people indicating an interest in playing with this organization and probably having to audition in order to be selected to participate.
The symphony will provide the musicians for the Syracuse Opera. How did that?
Well, actually, the symphony is not providing the musicians. Syracuse Opera has had to contract directly with the American Federation of Musicians and with each individual player. So we are performing the Pearl Fishers with musicians of the Syracuse Symphony Orchestra, but not the Syracuse Symphony Orchestra. Basically, we were told that the symphony had determined that they were not in a position to honor the contract that we have with them, which says we will pay a fee to the management of the orchestra for them to provide musicians to play for us. And then they would be obligated to pay the individual player. Because they ceased operations last week and they have a collective bargaining agreement with the American Federation of Musicians, my understanding is that it's not legal for them to turn around then and say, oh, but wait, we'll hire you back as independent contractors and you can still go and play this gig.
And I think the challenges for some people with regard to live music, whether it be classical or otherwise, is how to make it relevant in this digital age of iPads and MP3 players. I mean, how do you make live music, live performance relevant to this generation of people who basically were, breastfed only in a digital world?
First is the impact of truly live, unamplified music, which is what Syracuse Opera provides and what a symphony orchestra provides, is something you can never experience anyway except live in person, because the impact of the sound of voices and instruments without the filtering of digital sound is unique, and it, for many of us, creates an actual physical response. And that kind of thing I don't experience as much when I'm listening to something on my speakers here at home, for example. People who don't even have a clue what it is, through a digital medium, we might be able to get more bodies in the seats for the live performance.
Before anybody dismisses live performance as being irrelevant, you've got to see live performance, then make an informed opinion as to what you're saying. Start with the Syracuse Symphony Orchestra or the Syracuse Opera, and they'll go to Phantom or Les Mis or Wicked or this contemporary rock opera now on Broadway, Rock of Ages, Jekyll and Hyde. And then you make an informed decision because, like you, these performances, to me, go to some of these performances and your jaw will drop.
Right. Well, and it's not really all that different from the audience experience of watching a sport event on television versus being there live and in person. You get that electricity from all the other people around you. There's actually electricity feeding back and forth between the audience and the performers. It's the same sensation as watching SU basketball when they're having a great day. That's a thrill people want to have over and over and over again.